Hey everyone, it's Richie. Hope you guys are all doing well. Today I wanted to put out my tier list for the early metagame of Extradimensional Crisis, the brand new Pokémon Pocket set. Real quick explanation of tiers here. Meta defining is going to be stuff that's going to be absolutely everywhere in tournament, absolutely everywhere in ranked ladder. These are the absolute best picks for the format. This is the meta. This is what everyone is warping around, what everyone is building around, right? Solid picks is going to be stuff that's not really meta defining. People might not be building around it as much, but are still very good into the format. Niche might be like anti-meta stuff that might see some success versus these more popular decks. Invalidated by Rampardos. We'll get to that. And the don't play categories for cards that looked a little bit more interesting on paper than this straight up pack fodder here. That's not interesting at all, but they're just not worth playing. And they're pretty much just pack fodder as well. But on the surface, they might have given the impression that maybe they're not pack fodder, but they are. So yeah, let's talk about it. And we're just going to go in order here. First up is Dartrix and Decidueye, and these are going to go both in solid picks. I put the Rowlet down here. By the way, never play this Rowlet over the Skill Dive one. Skill Dive Rowlet's probably still the best one. And now we have a Skill Dive Dartrix that can do 20 to anything, and this is fantastic for Decidueye decks that already like sniping stuff. You know, this sets up for Pierce the Pain quite nicely. And this Decidueye is absolutely going to be seeing play as a one-of slot, as a kind of slot in as just one copy in a lot of these Decidueye EX decks to get around Oricorio, although Oricorio isn't doing very well right now, so it's possible that doesn't see a whole lot of usage because of that, but if Oricorio ever picks up a lot of steam again later on in the format, Decidueye is a fantastic slot in for these Decidueye EX decks to deal with Oricorio, and also to give you a separate way to go 1-1-2, right? Because we're seeing the Meowscarada variant drop off a little bit in favor of Pheromosa, for example. So I think Decidueye is quite solid there. Gives you a nice body to go into, a nice big-bodied, single-price body to go into before you go into your Decidueye EX, which is pretty cool. Next we have Buzzwole. Buzzwole's in meta-defining. This deck is absolutely everywhere. It's paired very well with Pheromosa, which we're also going to put in meta-defining. Pheromosa finds a place not only in Buzzwole, but also in Decidueye EX decks. It's a fantastic just way to set up the bench, do some damage to the active. It's pretty much Lopunny, but as a basic, so it's quite... Obviously, it's way better than Lopunny was ever going to be. Pairs very nicely with Buzzwole. It's an Ultra Beast, which means it's affected by Ultra Thrusters as well. Overall, very, very solid aggro card, very good early game damage. Works with the Decidueye EX and Buzzwole very, very nicely. And yeah, but Buzzwole really appreciates Pheromosa, and Buzzwole itself is very good, thanks to Ultra Thrusters, of course, which we'll get to later into the game, making it so that you can big beat consistently one turn after another, which is not something that would have been possible otherwise. Next up is Kartana, and I'm tempted to put it in niche, but I'm going to put it in solid picks. Kartana's being seeing some play as a third basic and Buzzwole Pheromosa decks as a secondary, like, early game aggro option, and I'm sure other grass decks are probably going to pick up on the same thing. It's essentially a grass-type Farfetch, but it has Ultra Beast support, as it's an Ultra Beast that works with stuff like Ultra Thrusters, which is pretty nice. It's a solid pick. I don't think it's meta-defining like Pheromosa or Buzzwole is, but it's going to be good in a lot of grass decks, and it's definitely a solid option as a third basic with Pheromosa or Buzzwole. Next is Blacephalon, and I was actually going to put this in pack fodder, but Blacephalon has actually been seeing some play alongside Ninetales, thanks to the addition of Lusamine to the game, which we'll get to later. But essentially, Ninetales actually has something that it can go into now after your Ninetales goes down with Blacephalon, which is pretty cool. It's made up a somewhat niche, probably not super good, but budget-friendly, and I think decently viable, actually, single-prize fire deck. So Ninetales plus Blacephalon is actually something that's been seeing play. Blaine has seen a little bit of resurgence with that, which is pretty cool. The whole idea is that the problem with Ninetales is that you couldn't build up anything in the back, because you had to commit all of your energy to your active Ninetales because I had to discard when it attacked. But now, that doesn't really matter, because you can go Blacephalon after, Lusamine for 2, attach for 3, and swing for 130, which is quite powerful. So, yeah, Blacephalon is actually kind of legit with Ninetales, which is something that I didn't expect. Very cool cook there. I don't know if it's been seeing any tournament play, but feel free to take it to the lower tiers of Ranked, I think. It might actually be able to even get you to Master Ball. I don't really know. I'm not entirely sure how good the matchup spread is, but I mean, I think it's a solid budget option, to be honest. New Shinx, Luxio, and Luxray are going in and don't play. Now the Shinx and the Luxio actually, I mean, I'm gonna put them up to niche, actually, because these are arguably upgrades over the previous versions of Shinx and Luxio. The Luxio has less health, but deals more damage, and the Shinx can actually do damage, right? The other Shinx, all it could do was just hide, right? This Luxray, though, is just not worth playing. If its ability worked from the bench, I could actually see a pretty decent argument for it, because it would give all of your Pokemon a plus 20 health effectively, which is really, that's cool. That's super cool. But that's not how it works, unfortunately. Only works in the active. I think that was a pretty big fumble. Also, this card is actually bugged at the moment. At least I hope it's a bug. For some reason, I guess recoil damage in Pokemon Pocket is coded in as a separate attack. So this card reads that all of your opponent's Pokemon do 20 less damage to you, and for some reason that also works with recoil, which means Rampardos takes 20 less recoil, Solgaleo takes no recoil, Giratina takes no recoil, and that's very, very, very bad. Those are all very popular cards at the moment, so as if this card really couldn't get any worse, this bug makes it even worse. So if you were really thinking about playing this, there's another reason for you not to. It's just not, it's not a good card. The other Luxray is way, way, way better. Use that instead. Alright, so now we're getting to the saddest part of the video, Coco Zeraora, and I'm going to go ahead and find the electric cord here as well, electrical cord. It's all going to go invalidated by Rampardos tier. So what this tier is these cards are fantastic in a vacuum. Electric has some fantastic buffs, right? The lightning type has seen some fantastic buffs in this patch. Tapu Koko is a very nice early game aggro card, and even, I guess it could be a somewhat decent EX to go into later into the game, although the low health definitely hurts it. Zeraora Thunderclap Flash makes it a fantastic option in the early game as well, and it gives Electric what it really needed, which is a non-EX basic attacker that's actually good. And Electrical Cord means you get value out of your active Zeraora or Tapu Koko by transferring energy to your benched Pokemon. It's great. In a vacuum, these three cards are fantastic. Now, unfortunately, we're going to talk about this a little bit later, Rampardos and Silvally are the most relevant decks right now. They're the most played deck. Rampardos Silvally has emerged as the most played deck in the game right now, and Rampardos is currently single-handedly invalidating the entirety of the Lightning type. There is literally no relevant Lightning type card that can live a single hit from Rampardos, thanks to weakness. It's hitting for 130, so 150 with weakness, so not even Giant Cape Tapu Koko saves you. And the Lightning type doesn't really have a Stage 2 EX or any sort of bulky Pokemon that can take a hit from Rampardos and hit back. Here's hoping for Luxray EX one day. So until Rampardos either falls out of the meta or until the Lightning type gets something that can actually deal with it, I sadly think that the type is still not very viable at all. You shouldn't be playing it in tournament, you probably shouldn't be playing it, and if you're trying to get somewhere meaningfully in ranked, which sucks because it's my favorite type in the game, but it is what it is. Even with all these buffs, in the most recent Ursa Day tournament, we only saw one Lightning-type deck in the entirety of the top 64, which made Day 2, and Rampardos Silvally had an over 20% play rate in that tournament, so yeah. And I would, honestly, there's not even much you can do to improve your matchup versus Rampardos. It's pretty near unwinnable, and that is the most played deck in the game at the moment, so unfortunately, Lightning type, even with all the buffs, even with it getting nearly everything it would ever want, minus a good endgame finisher, no, I still don't think Pikachu EX is very good, although Electrical Core does help it. Even with Lightning type getting literally almost everything it would ever want, Rampardos existing is sadly kind of invalidating the entire type, so it is what it is. Until we can get something that deals with Rampardos or Rampardos falls out of the meta, I actually don't think Lightning type is ever going to be very playable. Which sucks. One card is invalidating and gatekeeping an entire type from being actually good, but hey, it is what it is, I guess. Morlo and Shiinotic is going in solid picks, because it turns out that this is actually very good with Solgaleo, not something that I anticipated. On paper, you would think, well, that has a pretty rough matchup into Oricorio, and that's probably true. However, Oricorio isn't great right now, because Lightning type isn't great right now, so the most played deck in the game, so Volley Rampardos, is a non-EX deck, so Oricorio gets zero value out of it. So because Oricorio isn't as good at the moment, Solgaleo plus Shiinotic is quite good. Now, if it ends up winning Ursa Day, the results might even be out by now. I just haven't checked them. It's possible that deck actually ends up surpassing Rampardos. Maybe we'll see Oricorio rise up in usage, but until that happens, Shiinotic Solgaleo is quite good, and Shiinotic is a great engine to guarantee you get your Solgaleo as quickly as possible. So this card actually ended up being relevant in one deck. So cool. I don't think there's really any other deck that's going to be able to fit this, unfortunately, but I mean, if there ever comes a time where that is the case, Shiinotic is a pretty good engine. So yeah, solid card. Next up is Balto and Claydol. I'm going to put these in the don't play category. You could make an argument for niche, but unlike Shiinotic, there has been no deck thus far that has made space for Claydol. the heal block is very powerful. Like it's actually a super super good ability. But unfortunately, I just don't think there's any deck that wants to tech this in that has the space to tech this in. It's a stage 1, so it's kind of hard to fit. And Shiinotic Solgaleo means that if you're playing a stage 1 uh as like a tech card like this is like an engine or something like that. Claydol isn't an engine, it's a tech card. It means that you can't really play many other Pokemon with it, probably only one other Pokemon line at most, and there's nothing else right now that would really appreciate Claydol that much. So I can see Claydol becoming better if there's ever a Pokemon that pairs very well with it, but right now, there's just no reason to play it. I just don't think it fits into any current deck in the format. It's a bit too clunky, takes up too much space. On paper, though, very good card, but it's not its time at the moment. Lycanroc EX is probably going to go in Don't Play as well. You can make an argument for niche. There were a couple of Lycanroc like Rampardo. Well, not Lycanroc Rampardos. There were like Lycanroc Garchomp, I think, was running around. Passimian was an idea. The 3 energy cost is just kind of rough, and 130 is damage, but not enough damage, if you ask me. You have to discard one as well, so it has Ninetales Syndrome. I'm going to put this in Don't Play. There's just better fighting type options. Rampardos is better than this. Despite the fact that it's a fossil, it also is only 1 prize, it has the same damage output, and it requires only 1 energy. So definitely less consistent than Lycanroc, since the Rockruff is very good in finding its own evolution, but the damage output, the energy cost, it might be less consistent, but it's just better in every other way. So don't play Lycanroc EX. Rampardos is just better. Nihilego is going to go into solid picks. I've seen this card teched into non-poison decks just simply because they have Poison Barb in them. So that's an interesting idea. It's also being paired alongside Guzzlord and sort of like a Dark Box Poison Ultra Beast deck, which I'm going to put into niche. The Naganadel you can make an argument for Don't Play, but I'll keep it in niche. Guzzlord, so I'm hesitant to put this thing into solid picks and think I'm probably going to drop this to niche as well. Not the Nihilego. The Nihilego solid, but I think I'm going to drop. And honestly, if this is a niche, then yeah, this is going in the Don't Play. Yeah. This should not. I'm sorry, Luxray. Even with old Luxray, is not in the same tier as these guys. Yeah, Guzzlord and Naganadel makes up a pretty cool. Or not Naganadel, Nihilego. Naganadel is usually, I don't really like that list as much, but they make up a pretty cool like poison, like Ultra Beast variant where you can use Ultra Thrusters to pivot in your Guzzlord whenever you want, and you have some pretty nice damage with Poison Barb, and the combination of Nihilego's more poison ability and Naganadel is a pretty solid attacker as well. However, with Naganadel and Poipole, you do go up to 4 basics, which I think is too much. So I don't really like that, because Celesteela is also in here. That's why I say 4. I think it's a decent deck. I don't think it's as powerful as some of the most used stuff that we've seen so far. It doesn't have as many tournament results. It's just doing okay right now. I think there's better stuff to play personally, but it is pretty fun. So Grindcore on Guzzlord can slow your opponent by discarding energy, which is quite annoying. It has a solid 30 damage attached to it, and Tyrannical Hole's 4 cost might seem a little bit steep, and it definitely is, but Lucement definitely helps mitigate that, and 120 is a decent number. It could be better, but it's a decent number, and 170 on a basic is always going to be very, very welcome. And of course, that 4 retreat cost is entirely mitigated by the existence of Celesteela. So I think the deck is decent. It's probably the closest we've ever gotten to a good playable poison deck. But of course, you still have to be careful of Arceus. And yeah, I mean, it's a fun little deck, but I don't think it's as good as some of the better stuff in the format. Next up is Lillipup and Stoutland. Do I put this in niche or do I put this in Don't Play? I think I'm probably going to put it in Don't Play. So on paper, Stoutland is pretty cool because it allows you to make all of your opponent's moves cost 1 more energy, which puts them back 1 turn, which is really nice, and it has a nice solid 70 damage attached to it. So I think it's pretty good. In the early game, it also benefits off of Rare Candy because it has 2 energy. But the problem is right now I just don't see any decks that would want to fit Stoutland. Nothing really seems like it has a space for it. An interesting idea that I've seen being thrown around is Stoutland plus Gallade, and the whole idea is you want your opponent to build up more energy on their attackers because of Stoutland, and then Gallade punishes them for doing so, which is pretty cool, but I haven't really seen that pick up steam in tournament or in ranked or anything at all. It's just like a fun little idea, and 2 stage 2s in the same deck, even with Rare Candy, still sounds pretty rough. So unfortunately, I don't think Stoutland really fits in anywhere, simply because I don't think any deck really has the space for the guy. So, yeah. Alright, Silvally, Type Null. This is going into meta defining. Silvally and Type Null, as well as Rampardos, make up the most played deck in the game right now. This is not ordered, but let's move them to the top. Gladion is a fantastic search engine for Silvally and type null. It lets you search your deck for one of the two at random, which lets you thin out the deck. It's essentially equivalent to a Pokeball. You essentially can get 4 Pokeballs in your deck thanks to Gladion, which is absolutely ridiculous. And the ability to search out your evolution like this pretty consistently is pretty stupid. Well, not stupid, it's just stupidly good. You use it, and then it also powers up Silvally's attacks, so now you're doing 100 damage instead of 50. It's rare. It's very, very, very good early game. Despite Tapu Koko wanting to be super fast there or trying to be super fast, I would still say Silvally is the fastest deck in the game, to be honest. With Rampardos, you're guaranteed a type null start, and as long as you draw into Silvally or Gladion, you have a guaranteed Silvally, and Gladion also gets you to 100 damage on Brave Buddies super, super fast. So this deck is very, 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 very fast, very powerful. It's the best normal type package we've ever gotten, easily. And this paired with Rampardos is absolutely meta-defining. It's the most played deck in the game right now. I don't expect it to fall off anytime soon. It has a pretty decent matchup spread, and it's definitely the best non-EX deck we've ever seen. So very, very solid there. Gladion helps thin out your deck, powers up Silvally. Type Null is a decent 1 energy attacker that ramps into Silvally, of course, and Silvally is 2 energy. And yeah, good HP as well. 110 is solid. So yeah, it's a very, very, very good card. Celesteela is also going to go into meta defining. It's good in the Buzzwole decks because you can, of course, use Ultra Thrusters to pivot out and then pivot back in with your Big Beat. If you got 2 Celesteela, you can just use one ability and then use another one again, or you can just manual retreat if you've got the energy for it and then Celesteela yourself back in so you can Big Beat second time in a row. And of course, it's also good for any other Ultra Beast deck as well, like Guzzlord, for example, but I think it's best with Buzzwole because it allows you to Big Beat twice in a row, which, mitigates the Big Beat's whole downside and really increases Buzzwole's damage output to pretty astronomical levels for a basic Pokemon. Celesteela is a fantastic card. I mean, the attack is pretty useless and the retreat cost sucks, but of course the retreat cost doesn't matter thanks to Ultra Thrusters, but the attack being as bad as it is a little bit relevant, but ideally this thing just wants to sit on your bench and support the rest of your cards anyway, but yeah, very, very, very good card, and it makes Buzzwole 100 times better. Beast Wall, I'm going to put this into don't play. I mean, this is just more pack fodder, but Beast Wall gives off the impression of maybe being useful, but it's not. So this card just becomes a dead card later on. As soon as any Pokemon gets knocked out, your opponent takes a point, Beast Wall becomes a complete and total dead card. It just literally does nothing. You can only use it if your opponent has 0 points. So, I mean, the -20 is cool, but I mean, again, this is only good super in the early game, and the -20 might not even be enough to change any relevant breakpoint. Your opponent might still be 2-hitting you, so unfortunately, this card just bricks later. It's just a completely dead card, so because of that, I just don't think it's very playable. There's better options for the Ultra Beasts, I think. Beast Wall is just not it. Repel is going into solid picks. Repel is an evergreen card. I mean, if we ever see a basic meta, Repel is only going to get better. And it's just a Sabrina, but for only basic Pokemon. So I think running this alongside Sabrina is quite good. If you can fit in 1 copy of Repel in the deck, it really does not hurt. It helps your matchup spread quite significantly against a variety of decks. And Repel is just a solid pick. It's not meta defining, it's not in every deck, but there are a lot of decks that can fit this. And if you can fit it, I don't see a reason why not to play it. B-Side's going to go niche. I don't really think a lot of the Buzzwole decks have been playing this in their list, and if they do, it's at 1. The extra damage output is pretty cool, but this is a kind of win more card, right? It gets more powerful the more points you have taken. If it was the other way around, I think it could be pretty cool because it would be a pretty insane comeback card, but it's a win more card, and typically I think when it comes to deck building, you kind of want to focus on the stuff that helps you get into a winning position in the first place, not the stuff that lets you win harder once you're in that position. So I don't think Beastite is as good for that reason, but I guess it could be a decent slot in as a one-of for Buzzwole, but I think you like other cards better personally. And finally, we get to Lucimin. I think this is the last one, right? The rest of them are just shinies and reprints and stuff like that. Full arts, yeah. Lucimin's going to go in meta defining because Buzzwole's really good, so Lucimin's really good. The Ultra Beasts have at least 1 super meta defining deck, so Lucimin by extension is super meta defining. Once your first Buzzwole goes down, the second one can be instantaneously powered up by Lucimin, attach 2 from the discard, and then attach your last manual, right? It's kind of like Volkner, but for Ultra Beasts, right? So it's incredibly good. Not only just for Buzzwole, but of course for Guzzlord, but Buzzwole is probably the best Ultra Beast of the ones we have right now, so Lucimin gets the most value naturally. on Buzzwole. So it's a very, very good card for that reason. All right, and these are going to be my final standings for our very early Extradimensional Crisis tier list here. You know, only a couple days into the expansion. A couple of changes here were made. I ended up moving Shiinotic up from Solid Picks into Meta Defining because I think there was enough Solgaleo Shiinotic in day 2 of Ursa Day to justify that. I think it's definitely very good. And I actually moved Guzzlord up from Niche over to Solid Picks because there were actually a handful of Guzzlord that did make day 2 in Ursa Day, and I felt like if I was going to put Decidueye up here and Kartana up here, I should probably put Guzzlord up here, because there was actually 0 Decidueye in day 2 of Ursa Day. There was no Decidueye EX at all, which is something that very much surprised me. I expected to do better than Guzzlord, but hey, I feel like if I'm rating Decidueye this high, the Guzzlord should be that high too. So yeah, this is going to be the final list. You know, quick little recap. Pack fodder's pack fodder. Probably don't play this. Invalidated by Rampardos. Maybe if Rampardos falls out of the meta, or if Electric actually gets something that can deal with it, these cards will probably be a lot better, but right now they're not worth playing because Rampardos is gatekeeping the entirety of the Lightning type. Niche, I would probably stick to ladder with this if you want to try it out. Solid Picks is probably playable in tournament, and Meta Defining, these are the most consistent decks for tournament and ranked. If you want to climb, play that. There's other stuff, of course, that's not that's in the meta that's not on this list. This is only just Extradimensional Crisis cards. There's other stuff in the meta, like, you know, Charizard and Incineroar actually placed in the top 64. And there's some other older cards that are still relevant. Of course, Giratina Darkrai is still as good as ever. So there's that to account for. But in terms of new Extradimensional Crisis cards, this is about where I stand on all of them on my early tier list. And that's going to be it from me. I'll stop yapping now. And yeah, I'll see you guys around. Take care, and thanks for watching.